So this is where we're going to talk a bit about the stock market. I mean, what exists in the US and still is missing largely in Europe is one stock market. Okay, in the US, you've got NASDAQ. And so the investors will go on NASDAQ to be able to, I would call it bet, but an educated bet most of the time, and I'll come back on that again, on those companies that are raising funds through an IPO, because an IPO is not an exit, it's raising funds, okay, to provide more fuel, more cash to the programs and the technology. And so you've got very savvy, specialized investors in this US market that can understand what a company is doing, and they understand as well, they can anticipate the timing, how long it will take to deliver the next inflection points and the next key data set. And if you are faced with generalist investors, not specialized investors that are not really understanding what you're doing, well, first of all, it might be difficult to attract them as investors in an IPO unless they want to get a bit of a hype because they have a kind of pocket allocated to anything else than the classic industries. Okay, fair enough. But as soon as there are maybe gray or bad news, they will fly away. Okay, so this is a bit of an issue. This is why you need savvy, specialized investors, and sometimes even before IPO to fully support the IPO. The nickname for those is our crossover, meaning investors that will come before IPO and with the mentality that the philosophy that they will invest at IPO time as well to make sure the IPO comes through and that the company can move to the next steps. We still lack this in Europe. And in Europe, you've got different markets. Okay, you've got London Stock Exchange, you've got alternative investment market, you've got Euronext Paris, Euronext Amsterdam, Euronext Brussels, you name it. Okay, and so this is a bit of an issue in Europe to make sure you can attract not only savvy investors, specialized investors, which are few and far between in Europe, but as well that you attract enough of them in one same market where they can all really put some money. So there is this issue, which is a structural issue that we need to address on the stock market in Europe. And so you have, faced to that, either you've got businesses which are innovative business, but which might need less money and who are okay to maybe raise less at a lesser valuation somehow on a European stock exchange. But if you need to raise big money at IPO and with follow-ups, and when you want to reach generous enough valuations and as well liquidity, meaning trading of shares, well, guess what? I mean, the facts, the data is there. You're better off going on NASDAQ than on Europe. Okay, but for European company, you need, I think, to anticipate the fact that you need to be over the crowd, and you will have US companies wanting to list as well on the US NASDAQ. And guess what? They've got US investors. Their name is already known to the IPO investors. So the dynamic is easier for those US companies. And this is where I strongly believe that venture capital in Europe can take the best of the two worlds. And this is what at Seroba we've been doing, and we will still push in doing, which is, okay, we've got great science, we've got breeds of entrepreneurs that are really up to it now in Europe, but at some point, let's get more visible in the US and let's access the pool of talents and money available in the US. But it's all about the timing. You need to avoid being dogmatic and make sure that when it is really needed, you get there. And else you might have a two-step process where one might start listing in Europe, but then list into NASDAQ as well, just to become more aware of what is a public company, a board and the governance, which needs to change as well. And once they are comfortable, they say, okay, now we can go to NASDAQ because we're fully ready, you see. But again, this is a major distinct difference between US and Europe. And as I said, I strongly believe that the US market has been pulled up in a favorable way with a very nice and generous IPO market, which we have been lacking in Europe. And this is really something we need to tackle, because it's not only about allocating resources in company creation and the early stage financing. If we want to keep those champions in Europe, it is late stage financing, which includes as well a good IPO market.